weekend. It's been pouring with rain here all day, so I figured I'd make a video. And there's been a lot of questions of late as to what's happening with 3.0, what's happening with the whole world of Midi controllers and all that sort of stuff, and where are things going. Some of it's been negative, some of it's been positive, but I've got a positive one for you. So, what we're talking about essentially with this is, say when we go to 3.0, the Stomp, which is right here, gains the possibility to control other things. If you think about this, this has already happened with Morningstar and the MC3. Tiny little thing, same brains, same 3 switches. They've got 1, 2, 3. And the way you activate those combinations of them, those behaviors, if you will, determines what happens in the MC3. It's exactly the same brain as the MC6, but half the size. But you think of the Stomp. The Stomp is half the brains of the big Helix. Super, super, super small, with just the same 3 buttons. If you consider these, forget all the audio stuff. Think of just the Midi. Just the manipulating of all those blocks that are in there. You add more blocks, you do all these things. What you're really concentrating on is how many switches do you have? It's the man-woman-machine interface. And how much can you do with 3 switches? How much can you do with 2 switches? Even. If you've seen it in my vids, you know, I've got these Flick 2 devices, little quarter-sized buttons that you stick on the side of your guitar. And with just 2 of those, the behaviors are tap, double tap, and hold. So 3 times, so 6 different buttons, coincidentally, same as this. 6 different buttons totally mapped into 2. And you want to consider what they call emulation, where you're emulating hitting a button. So you can now, as of about a month ago on the MC6, you can send a CC that will imitate that, or it will imitate that, or it will imitate that, or it will imitate, you know, a whole bunch of different stuff. Anything you could do, any behavior, you can send a command. This is what I would say for those who are looking and thinking, you know, great, Stomp's going to do all this stuff. Yes, it's going to do all this stuff, in theory. But your man-machine interface is really what counts. And the whole idea, for me, beyond 3, this is the same thing in 2.9. It's kind of the same thing for every Stomp user out there. So if you're one of the proud millions who have a Stomp, what we've been doing the entire time with the Stomp is you recognize it had just 3 things. You needed a controller to really open it up. You recognize it has half the computing power of the big one, but it was spread around on a board. It was part of a whole system. None of that changes. It's still part of a whole system. It can just now give directions, which is cool. And this is pretty much a simulation of what could be there. Take something super simple, for example. If you're doing a task like the tuner, you just go over here and hit the button. You'd be tied to this. You wouldn't get to the tuner from afar. But graphically producing these things, what I'm doing is I'm taking something much bigger, so I can fit 10, 11, 12 double action buttons on here. I make them graphically. I hit the tuning pegs there. The tuner comes on the old Stomp over here. I hit the pickup there or there, it will go to the exact pickup in the Sim 1. thereby displacing the DSP. So this is not the power of the big Helix floor, but I can take any component of this and it all links together, which is pretty cool, I think. This graphic of the simulator here turns on and off there. The plethora link, boom, takes me to another page with all the plethoras, and I can dial all that in all from the screen. So the idea as well is not to replace. These remotes have their usages, but if you're looking at it, composing, creating, getting all this stuff, you do not have to absolutely push everything into foot pedals. If you did, you would have a foot pedal board, like that. It would be crazy. What instead you can do is take these 6, and because these 6 are virtual, you can slide this up and down virtually, or more to the point, slide these screens through there and kind of make it precognitive. I was watching Precogs last night, whatever that film was, Tom Cruise one. You can have the Morningstar change screens on you and bring up the screen that you need in the moment that you need it, being told by something else. So think about this. Your floor could do that. This eventually could do that, I would assume, if you attach that to a snapshot or what have you. It kind of opens up two-way traffic. James Tope put out a video today where he was showing transmit and receive in the old basic way, where this was sending a PC out, going in here. That works, but that only works up to 30, or the number of banks that this has. This doesn't have any number of banks. This is infinity and beyond. The Helix floor is 127 times 7 folders. It's a hell of a lot. Not that you would run out, but eventually you can, and quite frankly, $1,600 for a MIDI controller is not what I'm saying at all. But it has the power to do that. So what I've done in the last year is it really changed my whole mindset about these things. I don't look at this stuff as name brands anymore. This is just all computing power and man-machine interfaces, and they all do different things, and you just stick them together and make them work. So, for sure, my advice whilst we're waiting is this. If you have a Stomp, if you're new to the MIDI world, if you somehow don't know that the Stomp or the floor really open up when you have extra buttons to do extra things, keep looking. There's all kinds of interesting stuff coming. What works for you is going to be up to you. I would highly recommend, for this reason, the Morningstar stuff, or similar. I don't have any affiliation with, but what makes the Helix so good is the user interface, the ease of getting stuff around, the fact that you've got a Stomp, the HXFX, the LT, the floor, and the rack, and they're all intercompatible between them. So you can take your work from one and move to the other. You can put the work in native. That's great. The Morningstar is the only one I know of that does a similar thing, where there's only one browser, there's only one workflow, and you can mix and match between 8, 6, and 3 button combinations, but the brains are pretty much the same there. And these can manipulate the data any way you want in a physical device. Physicality is obviously necessary, because just 3 buttons ain't enough. If you don't want to go through that, at least get a 2-button or a other 3-button device. MIDI would be the better choice for it, because you're going to need it. Straight up, you're going to need more than just 2. The average in the last year or so of experimentation is 4 as a minimal. 6 would be better. You can add them together. You can have multiple controllers doing things. And you should really think of these rigs as displaced DSP. For Stomp people, we know that already. We've been knitting together Midi capable pedals all over the place and driving them all from here. Could be very exciting. Think about it. You're going to get another one of these in another box, and what you do with that is going to take buttons, or it is going to take screens, and it has to follow certain logic. You cannot obviously program 3 or 4 behaviors on every switch and expect to remember that. It's never going to work. You cannot cram 36 switches into a board. You're never going to find what you need in the moment. So now is the time to start strategizing, and little things like LEDs or screens or light colors or some sort of visual feedback to tell you what's happening at the time and what's coming next are hyper important. Good research. Steve, Mr. Liberty, I hope you're doing well, mate. There's a lot of mess, and this is all because of you with this TRS thing back here. Hope you get yours sorted. See you, man.